In this video, we're going to go over troubleshooting your venous probe. There are some cases that the patient has been running on ECMO for a few days and suddenly you see dashes on your screen for your lab values. It could be your venous, or it could be all of your lab value parameters. This one is still reading the hematocrit and hemoglobin, but your mixed venous is dashed out. So what are you going to do? You've already done your gases and you've already calibrated it. Everything was running fine and suddenly you see this. So a few things could be happening in this scenario. Number one, your values for that lab can be out of range. Any value below 40% or above 90% will dash out. It cannot read it. So if a patient for any reason desats so much that it drops below 40, or there is recirculation issues where the cannula is positioned in a way that it's just pulling whatever is putting in, and your mixed venous starts going up over 90%, then you're gonna have dashes because it cannot read those ranges. What can you do in that scenario? Honestly, you have to fix the underlying problem so the values will get into the range. There's nothing else you can do by fixing the patient's status. Sometimes, on the other hand, it dashes out and it's not due to the lab values being out of range. It could be because there is something wrong with the probe. Now, I've always recommended with your probe, again, this is a light sensor that sends signals into the blood, and through those signals, it can detect the values and send it onto the screen. If this screen, for any reason, gets dirty, it can affect that light getting into the blood because it breaks down much faster, so that's why I can't detect those values. Or on your disposable part, which is sitting right here, there could be blood on it or dirt on it, and that can also affect your values. So my first recommendation would be, if you know the patient is not desading, to take an alcohol wipe and make sure this disposable part is completely clean. I would even take an alcohol wipe and clean this area right here and put it back on and see if that's going to help. The other recommendation I would have, if that does not help, is to take a piece of paper and put it right against this. So the first thing I would do is that I would take a piece of paper right here. As soon as you put a piece of paper, it would assume this paper is a lab value, and it's going to show some values on your screen right here. That's just a piece of paper value. We're getting a good saturation on that paper. I'm going to go ahead and try that again. This is your value. So I would recommend, before you even do that, to draw a sample, send it to the lab. When you have your results back, put it on a piece of paper. You will have a fake reading. You're going to go into your lab values. You're going to save it, yes, and then you're going to press the lab because you already have the results back. Now you have saved information. You can go ahead and adjust one based on whatever you got back. That's one other recommendation I would have. If you try all of these, which can happen, and it does not help, there are some issues that can cause this venous probe to have problems reading the values. If the patient has high protein levels, high hemoglobin values, high bilirubin values, all of those can affect reading on these blood gas machines or venous probes. So also consider all of those. If a patient is on propofol, a high volume of propofol, and that causes a lot of protein circulating in the body, then I would consider that as a reason why it's causing it. If that's the case, there's nothing you can do. I would just park this venous probe up here and live without my venous. Anytime you suspect the patient desading, I would draw a venous sample to make sure you're not recirculating, because that's the only value that you really need to have to troubleshoot recirculation.